The night was pitch black, broken only by the flicker of torches outside the cold stone walls of the basilica. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Merovech, the young prince with a rebellious spirit, stood before the altar, his eyes scanning the shadows. His heart raced as he clutched a small, worn book to his chest. He had fled from his father, King Chilperic, and now he was hiding, seeking refuge in the sacred grounds of St. Martin's Basilica. Merovech's father, a man known for his cruel and unpredictable nature, had ordered his son to be tonsured and made a priest, stripping him of his royal status. But Merovech refused to accept his fate quietly. He had escaped, and now he was a wanted man, a prince without a kingdom, a son without a father. As the night wore on, the door to the basilica creaked open, and a figure slipped inside. It was Bishop Gregory, his face etched with worry. Merovech approached him, his voice trembling. "Bishop, I need your help. My father wants to kill me, and I don't know where to turn." Gregory's eyes softened, but his expression remained serious. "Son, the basilica is a place of sanctuary, but it cannot protect you forever. Your father's men are searching for you, and they will stop at nothing to find you." Merovech's eyes flashed with determination. "I won't let them take me. I will fight for my birthright, and I will clear my name, but I need your support, your blessing." The bishop sighed heavily. "I know the path you walk is dangerous, Merovech, but I will do what I can to help you. For now, we must pray for guidance and protection." Merovech nodded, his resolve strengthening. He knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was not alone. The bishop and a few loyal followers stood by his side, ready to face whatever came their way. As the first light of dawn crept through the windows, the basilica came alive with the sounds of morning prayers. Merovech joined the congregation, his heart filled with a mix of fear and hope. He knew that his journey was just beginning, and that the road to reclaim his throne would be long and perilous, but he was ready to face it, no matter the cost. Outside, the world was already stirring, and Merovech could hear the distant rumble of horses' hooves. His father's men were closing in, but Merovech was not afraid. He had a plan, and he was determined to see it through. The bishop placed a hand on his shoulder, offering a silent blessing, and Merovech took a deep breath, ready to face the day ahead. The first challenge was just around the corner, but Merovech was prepared. He had allies, he had faith, and he had a deep-seated belief that he was meant to rule. As the sun rose higher, casting a golden glow over the basilica, Merovech stepped forward, ready to begin his fight for the throne. After these events, King Chilperic heard that Bishop Predicstatus of Rouen was giving away gifts that went against the king's interests. The king summoned the bishop, and found that he had in his possession property that belonged to Queen Brunhild. The king took the property and exiled the bishop until a council of bishops could decide his fate. The council met in the Basilica of St. Peter in Paris. The king accused Bishop Predicstatus of helping his enemy Merovech marry Merovech's aunt, which was against church rules. The king also accused the bishop of plotting to assassinate him, and of using money to turn the people against the king. The crowd of Franks grew angry and tried to break into the church to stone the bishop, but the king stopped them. When the bishop denied the charges, false witnesses came forward with valuable items, claiming that the bishop had given them these in exchange for their loyalty to Merovech. The bishop admitted to giving gifts, but said it was just to repay the people for their own gifts, not to plot against the king. The king left, but the bishops stayed behind to discuss the matter. Aetius, the archdeacon of Paris, warned the bishops that if they did not stand up for justice, they would lose their reputation and the respect of the people. The bishops were silent, fearing the queen's anger, but one bishop, Gregory, spoke up. He reminded the bishops of their duty to speak the truth, and to prevent the king from committing a grave sin. He cited examples from history like Chlodobert, who had ignored a priest's warning and was later killed, and Emperor Maximus, who had forced St. Martin to associate with a murderer and was later deposed and killed. The bishops remained silent, and two of them, who were flatterers, reported Gregory's words to the king. The king, already angry, sent for Gregory and accused him of being unjust. Gregory defended himself, saying that the king could correct any bishop who went astray, but if the king himself strayed, no one could judge him except God. The king tried to win Gregory over with flattery, offering him a bowl of broth. Gregory refused, saying that his duty was to do God's will, not to partake in the king's pleasures. The king then swore an oath to follow the law and the canons, and Gregory left. That night Gregory received a visit from messengers of Queen Fredegund. They offered him a large sum of money to help convict Predicstetus. Gregory refused, saying he would only follow what the other bishops decided according to the canons. The next morning the bishops met again, and the king accused Predicstetus of theft. The bishop explained that he had been holding the property for Queen Brunhild, and had only given it back when the king told him to. The king accused him of using the property to buy loyalty, but the bishop denied this, saying he had only given it as repayment for gifts he had received. The king saw that he could not prove his case, and was frustrated. He asked his flatterers for advice, and they suggested that the bishop confess to the charges. The bishop was tricked into confessing, and was ordered to leave the basilica. The king then sent a book of canons that included a new rule. A bishop found guilty of serious crimes should be removed from office. The bishop was taken away and placed under guard. He tried to escape, but was caught and beaten severely. He was then sent into exile on an island near the city of Coutances. Meanwhile, Merovech, the king's son, was trying to reach the basilica of St. Martin in Tours. The king ordered the church to be guarded, and Merovech was trapped in the Champagne country near Rheims. The people of their one tricked him into coming to them, promising to support him. They captured him and sent messengers to the king. Merovech, fearing for his life, asked his servant Galen to kill him. Galen did as he was asked, and when the king arrived, he found his son dead. Some people believed that Merovech's death was ordered by the queen. Galen and others who had helped Merovech were severely punished. The queen's supporters, Bishop Aegidius and Guntram Boso, were also accused of betrayal. Around the same time, disturbances arose against two other bishops, Salonius and Sagittarius. They had been appointed to the diaconate by St. Nistius, Bishop of Lyons, and later became bishops of Embrun and Gap, respectively. Once in power, they became abusive, committing crimes like theft, violence, and adultery. During a celebration, they attacked Bishop Victor of St. Paul Trois Chateaux, stealing from him and insulting him. The people were shocked by their behavior, and the bishops faced serious consequences for their actions. King Guntram heard about the wrongdoing of two bishops, Salonius and Sagittarius. He called a big meeting in Lyons to look into the matter. The bishops and the patriarch Nistius found that the two were guilty of serious crimes. They were removed from their positions as bishops. But Salonius and Sagittarius weren't happy with this and went to King Guntram, saying they were treated unfairly. The king, who still liked them, let them go to the Pope in Rome to appeal their case. The Pope, John III, believed their side of the story and ordered them to be put back in their positions. King Guntram, though upset, did as the Pope asked but gave them a stern talking to first. Despite this, they didn't improve. They even made peace with Bishop Victor, who let go of the people who caused trouble following Jesus' teaching. For this, Bishop Victor was excommunicated, but was later brought back into the church. Salonius and Sagittarius, however, continued to get into more trouble. They fought in battles, killed people, and treated others badly. When the people complained to the king, he summoned them. They tried to defend themselves by saying that the king's sons couldn't rule because their mother was a servant. This made the king very angry. He took away their possessions and sent them to different monasteries to do penance. Later, when the king's son fell ill, people suggested that maybe the king had been too harsh on the bishops. The king, worried, released them and asked them to pray for his children. They were released and met up, showing they were friends again. For a while, they acted more piously, but soon returned to their old ways. They spent their nights drinking and feasting, and their days sleeping and relaxing. This went on until God's anger destroyed them. Around the same time, King Chilperic's younger son, Samson, got very sick with dysentery and fever. His mother, Fredegund, had wanted to get rid of him when he was born, but the king stopped her. Samson was eventually baptized, but died before he could grow up. Fredegund was also very sick, but recovered. Guntram Boso, a powerful man, came to Tours to take his daughters, who he had left in a holy place, to Poitiers. King Chilperic, who didn't like this, attacked Poitiers and chased away Guntram's men. He removed a man named Anodius from his position and sent him into exile. A year later, Anodius was allowed to return home. In the third year of King Chilperic II's rule, a man named Daco deserted King Chilperic. Duke Draculin, known as the Zealous, captured Daco and brought him to King Chilperic. Draculin promised to save Daco's life, but broke his word and had him killed. When Daco saw he couldn't escape, he asked a priest for forgiveness before dying. Later, Draculin tried to stop Guntram Boso from taking his daughters. Draculin threatened Guntram, but Guntram called on God and St. Martin for help. Guntram fought back and killed Draculin. Guntram and his daughters escaped safely. Draculin's father-in-law, Severus, later faced false charges from his sons. Severus tried to see the king with gifts, but was caught and exiled. He died a sad death, and his sons were also punished. All their wealth was taken by the king. King Chilperic sent an army to Brittany to deal with Warok, the son of Maclaev. Warok surprised the army at night and killed many of them. He then made peace, gave his son as a hostage, and agreed to pay tribute to King Chilperic. But later Warok broke his promise and sent Bishop Unius to the king. The king was angry and exiled Unius. In the 4th year of Chlodobert II's rule, another meeting was held in Chelon. Selonius and Sagittarius were accused of more crimes and were stripped of their positions. They escaped and were replaced by new bishops. King Chilperic then imposed heavy taxes on his people. Many people left their homes rather than pay. In Limoges, the people tried to kill Marcus, the tax collector, but Bishop Feriolus saved him. The people burned the tax records, and the king sent his men to punish them severely. The Britons also attacked areas around Rennes, burning and stealing. They even reached Cornuds. Duke Bepolin was sent to fight them, but this only made the Bretons angrier. They continued to attack Nantes and Rennes, taking away crops and people. In the 5th year of Chlodobert II's rule, a serious illness spread through Gaul. It started in August and first affected children, who died in large numbers. King Chilperic and his family were also hit. Chilperic's younger son was baptized before he died. Soon after, his older son, Chlodobert, also fell ill. Fredegund, seeing their sons in danger, felt regret. She ordered the tax records to be burned and asked the king to do the same. The king agreed, and the burning of the records stopped the new taxes. In the days of the Frankish kingdom, after the younger child died in severe pain, the people mourned deeply. They carried him from Burney to Paris and buried him in the Basilica of St. Dionysius. Chlodobert, his brother, was taken to the Basilica of St. Medard in Soissons. Despite the prayers and vows made at his tomb, Chlodobert died in the middle of the night and was buried in the Basilica of the martyrs Crispin and Crispinian. The entire population wept and followed his funeral procession in deep mourning. King Chilperic, after all this, became generous to cathedrals, basilicas, and the poor. Queen Austerchild, the wife of King Guntram, fell ill, and before she died, she asked the king to avenge her death by executing the doctors who treated her. The king, bound by his oath, ordered the execution of the 2 doctors, Nicolaus and Donatus. Many people believed this was a sin. In Spain, a persecution of Catholic Christians began. Many were exiled, deprived of their property, and subjected to various torments. Goisuinth, the wife of King Leovigild, was particularly cruel. She tried to force Ingund, a Catholic, to convert to Arianism. Ingund refused and was beaten and thrown into a pool. Despite this, Ingund remained firm in her faith. Leovigild's son, Hermenegild, married Ingund and was eventually converted to the Catholic faith. This angered Leovigild, who tried to destroy his son. Hermenegild sought help from the emperor's forces, but was betrayed and captured by his father. Despite a promise of forgiveness, Leovigild had Hermenegild stripped and exiled. King Chilperic, still grieving the loss of his sons, feared for his remaining son, Clovis. He sent Clovis to Burney, where the same disease that killed his brothers was rampant. Miraculously, Clovis did not get sick. However, when Clovis boasted about his future rule and criticized his stepmother, Fredegund, she became afraid. She accused Clovis of plotting against her and had him arrested. Clovis was taken to a villa across the Marne and killed. Chilperic, believing Clovis had committed suicide, did not mourn his son's death. Clovis's mother, Audavra, was cruelly executed, and his sister was forced into a monastery. The woman who had accused Clovis was burned alive for lying. Chilperic's treasurer, who was loyal to Clovis, was tortured but later released on Gregory's intercession. Elafius, a bishop, was sent on an embassy to Spain but died of fever. King Myro's envoys were captured by Chilperic and held in Paris for a year before being released. King Leovigild sent an envoy named Agelan to Chilperic, but Agelan was converted to the Catholic faith after a debate with Gregory. King Chilperic wrote a circular denying the distinct persons of the Holy Trinity. When Gregory and other bishops rejected this, Chilperic wrote other books and even added new letters to the alphabet. He ordered these to be taught in schools, and old books to be rewritten. Ludast, the Count of Tours, was accused of betraying the city to the son of Sigebert. He also accused Bishop Gregory of adultery with Queen Fredegund. King Chilperic, angry at these false accusations, had Ludast thrown into prison. Ludast was born a slave on an island off Poitou. He worked in the royal kitchen, but was moved to the bakery due to poor eyesight. He ran away several times and was punished by having one of his ears clipped. He then sought refuge with Queen Marcofa, and later became the Count of the Stables. After Marcofa's death, he tried to maintain his position by giving gifts to King Charbert. His arrogance and greed led to his downfall. In the years that followed, the land of the Franks faced many trials. The kingdom of Chilperic, once strong and feared, began to crumble. The king's sons, who were to inherit the throne, died one after another, leaving the kingdom without a clear successor. This instability led to conflicts and power struggles among the nobles, each vying for control. Chilperic himself, once a powerful ruler, became weaker. His decisions were often misguided, and his rule was marked by cruelty and greed. The people suffered under his reign, and the church, which had been a source of comfort and guidance, was often at odds with the king's policies. One of the most significant events during this period was the alliance between Ludast and the priest Riculf. Ludast, who had been a count and had a history of corruption and deceit, joined forces with Riculf, a subdeacon known for his treachery. Together, they plotted against the Bishop of Tours, trying to bring false charges and cause chaos in the city. Their plans, however, were ultimately foiled, and both men faced severe punishment for their crimes. Ludast, who had once been a powerful figure, ended up fleeing from his enemies and living a life of poverty and disgrace. He was chased from place to place, and his attempts to regain power were met with failure. Riculf, the subdeacon, was sentenced to death, but was spared by the bishop, though he was severely tortured and humiliated. In the midst of all this turmoil, the church continued to play a crucial role. The Bishop of Tours, despite facing many challenges, remained a voice of reason and justice. He worked tirelessly to protect the church and its people, even when it meant going against the king and his supporters. The story of this period is a reminder that power, when misused, can lead to great suffering. The kingdom of Chilperic, once mighty, was brought low by the sins of its leaders. The people, caught in the middle, faced hardship and uncertainty, but the church, with its commitment to truth and justice, offered hope and a path forward. As the years passed, the kingdom of Chilperic declined, and the land was left in a state of turmoil. The future was uncertain, but the lessons of the past remained clear. Leaders must be just, and the people must stand together in the face of adversity.